daunting, but really exciting at the same time. So my name's Kerry, and for those that don't know me, and I'm really delighted to have you with me, but I'm aware that maybe a lot of people maybe on the call do have experience with hypnosis and different levels, and maybe some don't, and that's absolutely fine, because really, if you think about it, we've all experienced kind of hypnosis anyway. Maybe we've not realised it before, maybe when we're watching a television programme, like a crime drama, and we're really into it and our imaginations have been really kicked in, or perhaps we're just watching advertisements on the television, we're listening on the radio, maybe daydreaming on the bus, we're even reading a book. We are engaging our imagination, and that's what this is all about, is really getting your imagination to work and your unconscious mind to do the work for you. And that's all I'll be asking from you, from you all tonight. So that's really good, quite easy. And the reason I chose this topic to address really is something I really want to continue doing when I am launching my business, my new business later on this month. But I would be what you would class as a typical yo-yo dieter. I've tried most diets. I was even a consultant for a very well-known diet brand, where you would use meal replacements and eat no food, no conventional food. And that brought me great success. I lost a lot of weight, but the weight crept back on, and I didn't actually solve my issues around food. I still was binge eating, emotional eating, and I just didn't have a switch off button. So it really, I have had that lived experience of it. And I think over the last year, it's really come into play the whole hypnotherapy thing, is that I have had a really bad year of health. My health has been quite bad. I've had a lot of digestive issues, and I was in a lot of pain. And I started to explore the world of hypnotherapy and how it could help me. And so this evening kind of marks the beginning of something I never ever thought that I would do, because I'm the hypnotherapist now, which is really cool and really exciting. But I'm very grateful for the knowledge and the friends that I've gained through studying with two of the best hypnotherapists in the world. And I've been working with some incredible people along the way. And all I want to do now is just use these newfound skills to help others find their path in life. Because hypnotherapy has really helped me with the pain, with managing pain. It still does, on a fairly regular basis. And I think that it allows me to find that focus, and because I do deal with a bit of chronic pain from previous health issues, but also just from even just like down to having a headache or a migraine, start of a migraine, instead of going to medication, I'm actually thinking about using my unconscious mind, which is something I never even contemplated doing before. So modern society is totally obsessed with how we look. We all are obsessed with how we look, what size we are, and that the meaning of the word diet has shifted over many years from a word that just simply meant to be like the type of food or drink that you habitually eat, to what we now see as a special course of food, where maybe a person restricts themselves for losing weight, or maybe medical reasons. There are other reasons potentially why you would restrict what you eat, but restricting oneself to a small amount or special kinds of food in order to lose weight, that's what we see as dieting now. That's the word diet. I'm going on a diet. I am dieting. The diet starts tomorrow. And it's just so, it's common language for us all. And there was one book that I've read recently through exploring all this whole subject, and having had three really wonderful sessions of hypnotherapy with three different hypnotherapists through the course. And the book that I picked up recently was called You Are Not a Before Picture, because we're obsessed with that whole before and after picture. You see all the diet brands selling their diet, they're the best diet ever, with their before and after pictures. And it really resonated with me, because that's a life that I have lived. I've looked at other people and gone, oh wow, I wish I could achieve that. I don't think I can do that. or I beat myself up because I've not achieved it. I've not got that amazing before and after picture. So it's a book called You Are Not a Before Picture. It's written by Alex Light. She actually has an Instagram, so for anyone interested, it's a really good read. You can listen to it on Audible as well. And she has a background in fashion and beauty journalism, and through her own experiences with her own body image and her own weight, she has managed to use her journalism experience and transform what was her beauty and fashion blog into this safe space for people to go and talk about eating disorders. Now, we think of eating disorders, we think of maybe anorexia, bulimia, but actually there's a whole spectrum of eating disorders, and things like emotional eating, comfort eating, binge eating, whatever eating habits that you've become accustomed to using to deal with emotions or anything else in your life, that is in that spectrum too. So the other things she deals with are the whole diet culture and weight stigma as well, and that kind of stigma around being a certain size or weight, which is, that's something I've grown up with, and I'm sure everyone here has probably seen that as well. So dieting itself is actually counterproductive to actually losing weight, because if you think about it, if the diets work, really truly work, then all you have to do is do one diet in your lifetime. Absolutely one diet. And the diet industry would not be worth billions of pounds, billions of dollars. It speaks for itself. So I just want you to consider this statement: dieting makes you prone to weight gain in the future. Just listen to that again. Dieting makes you prone to weight gain in the future. So this whole diet, I must be on a diet all the time in order to achieve my goal, really is counterproductive. And there's lots and lots of research. I could go into this for hours, absolutely could do. There is a dietitian that, she's on Instagram, I think, yeah, it's Instagram, and her name's Lauren Cadillac, and she has a huge issue with the diet industry. As a dietitian, she sees many, many people come through her door who have developed eating disorders through just yo-yo dieting. And basically the diet industry always tells us if we try hard enough and we've got the willpower, we can all be thin. Well, thin means different things to different people, for a start. But there's quite a few issues with that statement alone, is that the fact that your weight and your body shape are actually predominantly determined by your genetics. If you look back in your family, you'll see that there's certain body shapes and builds. Some people are taller, some people are shorter, some people, are more curvier than others. And it's just like your eye colour, your height, maybe your shoe size. We've all got some kind of set point weight, a weight range that is genetically predetermined. And looking back on the times where I felt good and I felt healthy, I actually was not at the weight that I should be for BMI, and that's a whole other story. I'll not go into that too much tonight, but at my ideal weight, I'm not at the ideal weight of what the BMI scale says. So some people are genetically predetermined to have a smaller body, some have a larger body. And our set point weight is the weight that you can easily maintain when you eat intuitively, maybe mindfully, and you're listening to what your body's saying to you. You're listening to what's thirst rather than hunger. You're eating when you're actually hungry, but you're listening to the signals to say, oh, I'm full. And of course, you're engaging in something enjoyable, like it's an enjoyable exercise, like maybe dancing. Perhaps you're not a gym bunny. I am not a gym goer. I like going out for walks. I live by the sea, and I love walking by the sea. It gives me great pleasure. I can clear my head. I just love going out for a walk. Some people don't like doing that. They don't like going out in all different kinds of weathers. I live on the west coast of Scotland, where most of the time it is pretty wet and windy, but I try and force myself to go out because it's not easy. It's cold, it's wet, and you come in looking like a drowned rat, but that's okay, because actually I actually feel really good after it. I don't need to go to a high powered, high energy weightlifting class or an aerobics class to have fun. I enjoy dancing, and being Scottish, I do love ceilidh dancing, so that's something I can go and do. I can go and enjoy myself in an evening, socialise and get exercise at the same time. So there's ways of building movement into your day. So starving ourselves or depriving ourselves really isn't the answer. And there's lots of studies. There's a study particularly that I really quite enjoyed reading about, actually, which is quite sad because it's not a very nice study. But there was the Minnesota starvation experiment, which was done in the 1940s. I think it was 1944, and the physiologist Ansel Keys, he ran this experiment, and it was designed to determine what the psychological and the physiological effects of prolonged and severe dietary restriction were, because that's what we do to ourselves with all these fad diets. We restrict ourselves quite severely. And so for 6 months, they had 36 people who were in good physical, mental health, and they followed their maintenance calories, they stayed the same weight, and then 6 months after this, they had their calorie intake, they'd halved it completely. So they were trying to lose 25% of their body weight. Now, they halved the calorie intake, they gave them lots of physical activities to do. They were walking 22 miles a week, and there was lots of other activities planned for them. But the result of that was, in this starvation period, that they became irritable. They couldn't be bothered, just couldn't be bothered with life. So their mental health was suffering. They became completely and utterly obsessed with food because they had these intense cravings. They were collecting recipes and sitting up studying cookbooks all night, how they could work it around their calories. And all their conversations revolved around food. It sounds familiar to me because I've been there. I didn't need to be part of this experiment. But as well as their mental health, their physical health did suffer as well. And what they found was that their metabolism dropped by 40%. Now, as you get older, your metabolism does start to slow down. But when you're doing that on top of, when you're doing all this restriction on top of that, as you get older, then what happens is it drops even more, and it really slows down. So you're kind of playing about with lots of different things here. And after they did this period of restriction, they did the refeeding. And so what happened was they were told, you can eat what you like, you do what you like, whatever. So they ate what they want, whenever they wanted, but they were still so obsessed with food. Their whole world was revolving around food. And they still were experiencing like moments of extreme hunger. And they were trying to work out how that was, and they were just binging on lots, like high amounts of calories at one time. And some of them really found it difficult to actually stop eating, that they didn't have that off switch. They weren't getting the signals. And so this kind of showed that there are huge effects on us when we do start restricting and playing about with food. And yes, there are times where we really do need to look at our portion control and things like that, but not to the point that we are really starving our bodies. Because if you lose 10 pounds in 7 days or whatever, or a stone in a week, 14 pounds in a week, that's ridiculous. That's, most of that is water weight. Not very little of it is fat. And actually, the quicker you lose weight, the more muscle actually you lose. Because I've also been there, not maybe through dieting, but also through ill health. When you lose a lot of weight in a very quick period of time, what you're losing, water weight, but also muscle mass. You're not actually losing fat a lot of the time. Eventually you may lose fat, but you're losing muscle mass, and that's not good, because we need the muscle to keep going, to burn calories and move, etc. So But we've been conditioned, our society conditions us to think that it's okay to restrict yourself because, you're being naughty, so you have to stop doing that. So we restrict ourselves time and time again, and that results in us constantly obsessing over good and bad foods. So then we decide that there's some moral attachment to food. And I often have found myself daydreaming about my next meal. And I also sit and watch cookery programs and drool over them and think, oh, that'd be amazing. And then I start thinking, oh, right, maybe I should go and get something to eat. I haven't done that recently, but and then also thinking about my next meal, which I don't really do anymore since discovering hypnotherapy. My mindset is changing. It's not perfect, but it is totally changing. But our bodies just want real food. It just wants us to enjoy life, but in moderation. It doesn't need to be to excess. So what happens is when we restrict ourselves, we end up losing total control. We lose control over our eating habits. We end up overeating. We use food as a comfort, perhaps as a reward as well. And it's a way out of boredom because, well, there's nothing else to do. I'll just eat. We've been conditioned to think that that's that moral value, good, bad foods. And there's a diet brand here in the UK which assigns the word sins to some foods. And obviously that has negative connotations. It has a moral connotation that it is bad for you. And actually, well, no, it's like food is food. At the end of the day, food is food. And I think that's, even some of the poor vegetable groups get it, like potatoes. They're a starchy vegetable, but they're also sometimes deemed bad, as well as like some of the white pasta, maybe bread. I mean, I find that because I have a digestive condition, I've been diagnosed with Crohn's disease since I was 18, and yes, if I eat too much bread, I feel a bit of pain. So I tend not to eat so much bread. But it's not because I think, oh, I'm going to put on loads of weight because I'm eating bread. It's because actually I have some kind of reaction to the bread. I'm Scottish. I love eating potatoes. And I don't think anything will stop me eating potatoes. But there's ways to cook them that are better than others. And sometimes you want to have something that's fried. That's okay. You're having it every day. Okay, maybe it will have an impact on you. But we're all adults, we're all sensible. We do have that within us. We can make those choices for ourselves. We don't need some diet person telling us that, you're being naughty or you're being good or whatever. But I don't know if you've ever used this phrase, but I've used it quite a lot. I go, oh no thanks, I'm being good today. Or when you're eating something like a cake or something, having a bit of cake, you're like, oh, I'm being so naughty, I'm being bad today. Like, why do we do that? Like, just eat it, have it, enjoy it, and then you compensate. And I was out for a meal yesterday with friends, had a great time, no guilt whatsoever. I had a risotto. I didn't eat it all. I'd said, right, I got the signal that I was full. A bit of time passed and we decided that we'd have dessert, and I wanted a taste of something. I didn't want a whole thing, but nobody was up for sharing, so that was okay. But I managed to leave quite a considerable amount on my plate without batting an eyelid. I did not feel an ounce of guilt. Now, if you'd taken me out for dinner maybe 3-4 months ago, would I have done that? Probably not. I would have felt guilty. I would have felt I was being wasteful, and not, I was wasting money, and probably would try to finish it on the plate and make myself very ill. And so there was nothing positive or enjoyable about that. So yesterday when I went out, I really enjoyed myself. I felt free. I didn't feel any guilt. And it's the first Christmas holidays that I have felt no guilt, no shame, and I have not felt the need to jump on the scales as soon as the 1st of January hits. New Year's over, let's try the new year, new me thing. Didn't do it. Didn't faze me at all. So I think we can train our unconscious mind to help us deal with these thoughts, these emotions, the guilt, and work through it all. So basically, what's plain and simple is how much food you take in. All we need to do is learn how to enjoy eating, but in moderation. And we need to learn to listen and feel for the signals of fullness, and that our body, it does give us that signal eventually, and actually gain the strength and be okay with saying, no, I'm satisfied, I've had enough. That's taken me up. That's a big step for me to say that, because I would not say that before. I came from a family who spent most times at the dinner table, and I would hear phrases like, eat everything on your plate or you won't get dessert. Or eat everything on your plate, or you'll have to go to bed early, or something like that. You know, there would be some kind of threat with it. And perhaps you've heard the world famous phrase of, don't be ungrateful, eat all your dinner, because there are starving children in Africa. Now, those that have been with me on training know that I've been pulled up for that one, because it has happened to me. But what's eating all my dinner going to do? And that was the point that was made to me. What is it going to do for the children in Africa if I eat all my dinner? Are they suddenly not going to be starving? No, they're not, because that's not how the world works. So maybe you have been made to feel guilty at some point in your life about wasting food, or the type of food that you like. But there's simple ways to prevent it. And sometimes with the wasting food thing, maybe it's just a case of putting less food on the plate. Or if you've got leftovers, put them in a box, put it in the fridge, and then have it for lunch the next day, or something like that. But there are different cultures, obviously, throughout the world, and you know, clearing your plate is like a sign of gratitude, etc. But in China, if you were in China, if you had finished your plate, you would be, you know, being quite horrible towards your host, because you would be telling them, well, they didn't give me enough. The portion size was too small. You were skimping on it. And so what they do is, as part of their culture, is that they leave a little bit of food behind on their plate to show the host that the meal was filling and it was satisfying. And so if you know, that's it's not a worldwide thing that we all have to eat everything on our plates. So it does actually take an average of 20 minutes for your body to actually signify that, from your brain to signify to your body that it's had enough to eat. Now that changes from person to person. It also depends on the type of food you're eating and what your typical eating habits are. So whether you're sitting down and actually physically taking that time to eat your meal. And it does take time for the body to adjust to like the hunger related hormones, so like ghrelin and things like that. So if you're interested, there's lots and lots of research about it. But the hormones, those hormones will take more time than the nerve impulses to relay the information to the brain. So there's like electrical signals from the gastrointestinal tract. They travel along the nerves and they reach the brain almost instantly. But hormones are different. They travel via the bloodstream. So that's a very different thing altogether. So the time that it takes the body to get that signal that is satisfied and send it to the brain really does depend on what you're eating as well. So things that are high in fibre, like your fruits and vegetables, your whole grains, they will give you more satisfaction, whereas the lower fibre, more processed stuff, does delay that feeling of fullness. That's been proven. So the fibre, the higher fibre actually does switch off that production of ghrelin. So, you know, there's loads of studies of that. So yes, sometimes we do maybe have to like make choices at a meal time that are maybe better than others, but to help with that feeling of fullness. But it doesn't mean to say you can't have something that's high fibre with something else that's a little bit processed. It's, you know, you could marry that together. There's ways of working it. But it's really, the other thing is taking our time over our meals, and eating slower gives your body more time to signify that you're full. So you may pay attention to maybe the taste, the texture, savouring every bite, and you can tune into these signals better. And I think probably most people would probably know that concept as mindful eating or intuitive eating. You've probably heard those phrases before. But you can take time, chew your food, take that time and give yourself that time out, because eating food on the run, I've done it many times. I'm busy and I just have to grab something really quickly. But actually what I find if I do that is that I end up snacking more. So it's taking that time and saying to yourself, actually, even just 5 minutes, can I just give myself 5 minutes just to have something and just sit down and enjoy it? There was actually a famous hypnotherapy program that encouraged clients to chew each piece of food that they had 30 times. And if you sit and eat something, one piece of something and chew it for 30 times, you'll be there for quite a while. And there's just some foods that doesn't work with. So, but it does make you realise how much we maybe rush our food. I am guilty of it as a mum. I think it's survival mode that you go into, because you just have to get it in as quick as possible, because you need to go and feed the baby, or you've got a toddler that wants to come and steal stuff off your plate, so you're not going to get anything, if you don't hurry up and eat. Or you've maybe grown up as part of a big family, and there's so many of you around the table, you just have to quickly eat as much as possible before your big brother or sister comes and steals off your plate. If it's obviously good. If it's not good, then probably wouldn't. They don't enjoy it, they wouldn't steal it. But there's lots of different elements to this. It's just not as plain and simple as maybe some people in the media make it out to be. And the media themselves have a huge part to play in it, because they all make us feel that we're inadequate in respect to our bodies. They glorify, and it is changing, but there is a glorification of that small-waisted model, tall, skinny, and they're beautiful in their own right. But what's to say that something else that bit bigger is not beautiful, with more meat on the bones, so to speak? But they're still healthy, but it's the diet industry that have really played on that image. And these grand claims of, like, you can drop 10 pounds really fast, or tighten your tummy, and all these different phrases that we get pushed on us. So we get sucked into it at some point. And I think it's becoming, it is changing slowly, but there is still a diet industry, and there's still people making lots of money from it. I am personally at peace now with the fact that I have a very lived-in body. I have been through a lot. And even at my lightest weight, I was very, very ill at the time. I was not a happy person, because I lost the weight very quickly and I was very ill. But everyone kept on telling me, oh, you look amazing. Oh, you look wonderful. Because I'm always that bit bigger. I have curves. But I am really at peace with the fact that I have stretch marks. I have saggy skin. I have scars. And this is how I am, because this is what makes me me. And it's just a reminder of all the challenges you go through in life, really. It's part of making the person you are today. But in my journey, and losing a little bit more, I know that my journey is going to be slower than what these diet brands suggest, that you could lose this X amount of weight in such a short time. Because I know it's going to be slower, and I'm happy with that, because I know that I didn't put on all that weight overnight. Because I'm not going to lose it overnight. So how do I expect, if I've put on weight over a certain period of time, over a year even, it's probably going to take me a good year to take it off again. Why do I expect that it's going to come off in a month or a week or whatever it is? And it's kind of like that climbing the mountain kind of scenario. You can't walk in a straight line straight to the top. You kind of have to weave round in that pathway. And sometimes in the path there's a choice to make, and some days it could be that you choose to exercise more and move more, or some days you don't and you rest a bit, and that might impact your weight loss, the rate of your weight loss, or not. Some days you'll choose to listen to your hunger signals or fullness signals, leave something on your plate, and some days you might just go, I'll just have a little bit more of that. But at the end of the day, it's not going to ruin everything. You can't just, it's not like a be all and end all attitude. So you're not going to lose out on anything. These choices may slow the journey down a little bit, Probably not, because if it's just a small piece of time, then, it's not going to completely write off your goals. It's just a small space in time. I know some people, they go out for a meal and they jump on the scales the next morning and they're like, oh, I've put on 3 pounds. I'm like, you have not put 3 pounds on. You cannot have possibly put 3 pounds on overnight. It's water, retention, really. Perhaps you're not being to the toilet, things like that. There's lots of impacting things there. There's lots of factors there. And people they're obsessed with standing on a scale. For me, it's not so much a goal weight now. It's kind of like what size clothes I want to wear. I know, like, I want to get down to maybe like a size 12, 14. I was, at this time last year, I was a size 20, 22. I'm now size 16. In some clothes I am a 14, but it depends on, and that's another thing altogether, is clothing. The clothing industry does change the sizes from shop to shop. So I think it's just whatever you think and feel is good for you. I tend to now wear a lot of clothing that is maybe freer sized. Like, it can suit somebody that is smaller and suit somebody that is maybe that a little bit bigger. It's just finding what works for you. But the other thing is, and I asked everybody this question when they were registering, was how much water you take on board every day. And everyone had different answers. The average was about 2 litres a day. Some people drink a little bit less, some people drink a bit more. Some people just drink more coffee or juice. And yeah, that is still hydrating yourself in a way, but there are other factors with that. Maybe if it's juice, it might have sugar in it, it might not. With coffee, sometimes the stimulation of the caffeine can play about with hunger signals as well. But the thing with water is it actually can really help with your digestion. And it also can help sometimes decide whether you're actually hungry or not, because there are sometimes I go through in an evening and I think, oh, I'm hungry. But actually what it is I just really need a glass of water. So you just maybe need to hydrate yourself. Maybe you go through and actually you go through to the fridge and you're thinking, you're maybe angry about something, you're upset about something's upset you. And you go looking in the fridge because it's a natural thing. You're tired, you're bored. But maybe stop and ask yourself, actually, am I bored? Am I thirsty? Am I really actually hungry? Am I emotional about something? Because if the answer is anything other than hungry, then perhaps something else, you need to engage in something else. Maybe go for a bath, read a book, meditate for a while. A couple of visualization exercises you could do. And maybe all you need to do is go to bed because you're so tired. I've been like that. I'm just thinking, oh my goodness, why am I sitting up and not going to my bed? Because everything's done for the day. I don't need to do anything else. I'm just procrastinating. And maybe I do need to catch up on sleep. So it's maybe taking that time. If you are very emotional, something's really upset you, is taking maybe 5 minutes to yourself to just breathe and close your eyes and try a bit of visualization just to de-stress and maybe help work through your emotion rather than eating through it. And that's something I've really had to work hard at because I am an emotional eater. And I do find myself sometimes still drawn to food when I feel emotional, and I'm so much better at stopping myself now, which is good. But it doesn't stop those thoughts coming in. So when you registered for the evening, I also asked you about things that you might think would be holding you back. So some people said maybe sugar addiction, maybe just getting them that self-belief, snacking in the evenings when you don't actually need it, maybe not having the time to be active, when in actual fact you do have the time to be active. It's just that you haven't worked out how to build it into the day, because it can be fun. It doesn't have to be physically going out to the gym. You could just switch on some music in your kitchen, dance around for a little while. Some people, it's just hunger, anxiety. Maybe they just lack that follow through, that belief that actually, that this is going to work. Maybe trying to not have so much sugar between meals might help. But we tend to go to sugar when we're tired. Caffeine and sugar seem to be the big things that we do turn to when we're tired. And then with the things that sugar does to our body and caffeine does to our body, then we do maybe reach for food more. We do snack more. Alcohol's another one. We do feel that we want to snack if we've had alcohol. I had alcohol yesterday, and when I returned home from my lunch with my friends, and it was later on the day, I was feeling snacky. And I was like, oh, but actually I wasn't really hungry. I just needed to have water. That's all I needed. But people kind of feel that they're making bad choices when they're eating because there's certain foods that they just don't like. That's just not their thing. But it's making the foods that you do like work for you. Don't make them because they make you feel rubbish, because maybe that attachment of good and bad food has been, that moral attachment's there. So that makes you feel rubbish, and then you maybe do eat a bit more of it. So it's maybe having a bit more control. And so there's a lot of things about falling off the diet and then binge eating. Been there, done it plenty of times. Lacking motivation. Maybe our age is against us. I certainly don't lose weight at the same rate now that I did, even following any of these fad diets. I had done the meal replacement diet when in my 20s, and I've done it in my 40s, and it's not the same results. I don't have the same results at all. So it is different. Age does change our body makeup. But we all have something to beat ourselves up about. And I think it would just be wonderful. Wouldn't it just be wonderful if we could just lift that weight off our shoulders and your mind was more at peace with the food that you are eating, exercise. You have that control yourself and you trust yourself. It's that trust in yourself. And you can achieve your goal in a safe and healthy way. Food gives us comfort, gives us pleasure. It does absolutely do that sometimes. But at some point, your brain has decided that food can protect or shield you from maybe stress or anxiety or boredom. And at some point, that part that's responsible, because we all have different parts that do different things. And the part that is responsible for protecting you or relieving you from negative feelings or emotions is somewhat, at some point, being satisfied by food. Maybe that comes from being a child and you hurt yourself and you get given a piece of chocolate or sugar or something to help you be better. Maybe you've been given food as a reward for doing something. There's lots of different things that maybe that you have experienced in your life that have created this attachment to food and emotion, because we all do have something attached to it. So one of the things I want you to do after today is think of every day 5 things that you can do every day that will get you to your goal and where you actually want to be. So you just picture that goal, you create that vision of you. And I'm really into vision boarding. I had stopped doing it for a while and I felt completely different in my life, and I just felt rather a lot of negativity, and I do believe that's probably part of the reason why I was so stressed and I got really ill last year. But that's another thing. But I think vision boarding is a great thing, particularly when you're looking at stuff like this, because maybe there's something, you have an ideal in your head that you want to be, or there's a dress that you want to wear, or a suit that you want to wear for a special event, or maybe there's just something you've got in your mind that you want to look and feel amazing for. That's your goal. It's only personal to you, but you can have that up there, picture it every day, be grateful for that, manifest that is you, and you are grateful for that life and being healthy and being at peace with food and being able to do that. So there's lots that you can do with that. And I said earlier that I know at my lightest weight, I was miserable, and I definitely don't have a set point of a BMI between 20 and 25. That's not me. I think it's definitely higher than that. Not much higher, but it's definitely higher than that. And there's lots of research, and there's a doctor here in the UK who is really pushing a lot of, he's trying to kind of quash all these myths of food being medicine and you know, it is the be all and end all, but food isn't medicine. And he's written a book, his name is Dr. Joshua Woolrich, and he's written a book called Food Isn't Medicine. Fantastic book, but it really challenges the whole ideals that we've been given about food and the diet industry, and getting us to think about that diet trap, if you think about it, that we've maybe fallen into at some point in our lives. So there's those are two really good books if you're interested in that kind of mindset. So in terms of exercise, talked about, media like to push like weightlifters, going to the gym, running a marathon, because that's what I have seen so many of my friends on my social media who are posting, I'm off for a run, let's go. I haven't been running for ages. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is like my worst nightmare. I'm not a runner. I never will be. I like to walk. I like to, enjoy going for walks, but that's not me. But all you need to do is move, have a dance in the kitchen. I like walking fit videos on YouTube, go out with the dogs. Maybe you want to go and join a dance class, something different, something new, exciting. You might meet new people. But you have to do you and not what everyone thinks you should do, because that's, you need to do stuff that makes you light up and makes you happy. And doing stuff like, that kind of exercise that you don't enjoy, that's not going to have any results for you at the end of the day. And then equally with food, cutting out food that you actually do enjoy, it's not going to serve you anyway, because, well, you're just going to go back and eat it all anyway, and you're probably going to eat more of it, more in excess. So restricting it is not the answer. So once we've done this work tonight, I expect your weight goals to begin to change and go in the direction you want them to, and you'll naturally find that lifestyle that's perfect for you and being the perfect size that you want to be, not what everyone else says you should be. You will be free of the emotional eating habits that have held you back. You'll be happier, you'll feel healthier, and you will have a healthier relationship with food and your body. And it'll be a great feeling. You will feel great. I hope you do feel great. You will feel great. But it's not a hypnosis diet, because that's not what we do. And I expect that you will make changes to your mindset and your lifestyle. And maybe you need to do more work on this than others. But one thing we know about dieting is they don't work. So it doesn't work in the long term, and we know that. I talked a little bit about that earlier. So something needs to shift so you can feel happier and more at peace in your body. And I'm going to help you by showing you how to make that shift through your subconscious mind, your unconscious mind. And you've got that toolbox already in there. It's there. It's going to work for you, and it's going to work really well for you. All of our eating patterns that we have developed over the years, they're habits. So habits can be changed. Some of them, and most of them probably, are developed earlier on in our lives. Some do happen later on. And also we do have that attachment, maybe emotional attachment to food. And that's maybe, we talked about rewards, or helping you when you're maybe feeling sick, or you've hurt yourself, that, food there's an attachment to food there. So it's common for us to seek that emotional satisfaction from food, and we don't. We're nourishing our bodies, but we're not nourishing our mind with it. That's not how it works. So we are going to develop that part of us that is responsible for our eating habits, and helping it find the reasons for why we do what we do right now, and what its positive intentions have been. And we're going to ask that part to help us change things a little bit. We need to shift things up and shake things up a little bit. So I'll speak to the part of you that's responsible for your weight control, your eating habits, your metabolism, and it's going to communicate back to me. And that part that runs your eating habits and your metabolism will communicate. And I know it sounds strange for those that maybe haven't experienced this before, and it will communicate to me in some kind of movement and communicate to you. It could be an eye flickering, it could be muscles twitching, it could be hand lifting, it could be a temperature change in your body. I might not see it. And I'll ask that part what it's been trying to do for you, and I'll ask what it can do, find another way maybe for you to help you get to your goal, and help you let go of the excess weight that you feel that you have, and achieve your physical goal, and make you feel healthy and happy and safe, and love yourself. Basically, you should love yourself now, because you're still wonderful right now. So I just want to test your imagination before we go into our hypnosis session, because some of us have not done this before. So just make sure that you're sitting comfortably, your feet are sort of grounded as well. And if you've got something with somewhere you can rest your arms, that would be really good. Maybe not for this one, but just for later on. Your feet are obviously apart, and maybe your hands just by your side or gently on your lap. So I'd like you to do this with me. So can you put your hands out in front of you like this? And clasp them together, nice and tight, okay? And I'm going to ask you to bend your elbows like you're making a prayer, okay? Now you're going to point your fingers up, your index fingers up there, and they're about 1 inch apart. Now I want you to look at the gap in between those fingers, okay? Because in a moment they're going to touch. Just like magnets, they're just like magnets. Imagine them moving, they're already moving. Just imagine they're magnetised and they're going to touch. And when they touch, I want you to take a lovely deep breath in. And as you breathe out, allow your eyes to close. So that's brilliant. You're nearly there. Allow those to touch. And when you get there, take that lovely deep breath and allow your eyes to close. Now squeeze your hands tight together. They are glued together. And go out into fantasy. Use that imagination and think of the one person that's dearest to you on this planet, that you love the most. It could be more than one person. You might see more than one. See their eyes, see them smiling back at you. Hear their voice, hear them laughing. And feel what you feel for them and notice what those feelings are. Because now that you're with them in that fantasy, you are at the size and weight that you want to be. You're happy, you're healthy, you're enjoying a life free of dieting, free of emotional eating, free of comfort eating, free of boredom eating, free of guilt about what kind of food you eat. You are in control. Get that sense of time with your loved one or your loved ones. They love you. They're so proud of you. And just feel that love, feel that pride. Now as you feel that, and as you listen to me, your fingers are even more stuck together, becoming more stuck. They're bolted together, super glued together. They're stuck. And when you realise they're stuck, just raise your hands a little bit higher. So I understand that you can see that. Yeah, well done. They're locking, sticking tighter and tighter, and to the point you can try and pull them apart and find that they just stick even more. Well done. You're trying to pull them apart, but they still remain stuck. They're really, really stuck together. Just like you and your loved ones. So close, stuck together. And you may even find that your hands might start to shake or vibrate, but don't worry about it. It's okay. And when I clap, you can open your eyes and look at your hands stuck there as if they're someone else's hands. Open your eyes. Now hold on to those good feelings. Your mind's going to prepare itself to go and let go of all this unnecessary anxiety about what others think of you, the stress in your life, about stressing about sticking to the diet, and all that doubt that you have whether you can actually achieve your goals, and what guilt you may have about food and overeating. So I'll clap my hands again in a moment, and when I do, your hands will unstick and you can relax completely, and you'll be ready to make these changes and ready to be hypnotised. You can let go, drop your hands, well done.